Alrighty, so today it's time to do the preview in terms of match week number 18, and again, normally I do the preview on Friday, and I was supposed to do it right after when I finished the review of the Wednesday game, but I did kind of feel a little bit tired, and I decided to kind of do the preview in terms of looking at match week number 17, and what's interesting about match week number 17 is that, there's going to be games on Saturday, Sunday, and also on Monday, and it's the first time that we actually have games that's going to be happening on Monday, and rarely that, of course, has happened in MLS, but you got to also keep in mind Monday is the 4th of July, and that we'll be previewing just the first 10 games, and then I'll preview the 4 games that is going to be happening on the 4th of July a little bit later, and maybe even tomorrow. But let's begin with the first of 2 games that's going to be happening on Saturday. Yes, there's actually only 2 games that's happening on Saturday. There's a lot of game that is happening on Sunday, and that this feels like it's one of those weeks where MLS decided to go backwards in terms of usually Saturday is the time when it's get busy, and Sunday it's not. It's now reversed. And we start off with the first game that is the most annoying matchup in MLS fandom is Toronto versus Seattle. Yep, it's back. The game that nobody likes to see because they're all already kind of tired with the way that it always seems like both of these teams ends up to be an MLS Cup is back in a regular season matchup. Though, as I said, last season when both of these teams face off for the first time since the 2019 MLS Cup, both of these teams have took a huge different direction in terms of where they've been since that 2019 MLS Cup. Whereas the Sounders continue to be the dominant force in MLS, TFC has really took a huge fall from grace and now are more like bottom feeder in the Eastern Conference than actually competing for trophy. And while TFC fans will argue that, well, we still won almost the same amount of trophy as Seattle during the tenure when this is supposed to be the most annoying match ever, and the fact that they were able to do a domestic treble back in 2017, winning the Canadian Championship, winning the Supporter Shield, and also winning MLS Cup. Seattle will basically argue that, well, we still won more MLS Cup than TFC. And also, that thing called the CONCACAF Champions League? Yeah, we won that before you did, and that you basically missed a big opportunity to do so back in 2018. But nevertheless, this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. By the way, this game is not on national television, and normally when you have this kind of game that has happened, I'm kind of shocked the fact that this was not even considered to be on national television. But I guess maybe it's pretty obvious that, I don't think anyone wants to see the fact that Seattle is going to probably win this one because the Sounders are by far the better team heading into this one, and they have a 7-2-7 record, whereas TFC have a 5-3-9 record. And also, one thing I would add about the Sounders, that loss against Montreal, I feel like that was a game where, yes, it was a disappointing loss, but they also kind of fell into the trap. They were looking forward to this game more than the Montreal one, so I guess maybe you couldn't blame them for losing Montreal when they know that there's a bigger game happening over the weekend. But all-time meeting between both of these teams, Seattle does have an 11-2-4 record over TFC. In terms of top goal scorer for TFC, Jesus Jimenez, of course, back on the score sheet after he go for a long period without scoring with 8 goals, followed by Jonathan Osorio with 4 goals. Then you got Alejandro Pozuelo with 4 goals, DeAndre Kerr with 2 goals, and Ayo Aquinola with 1 goal. For the Sounders, Jordan Morris is now tied with Raul Ruidiaz with 5 goals, followed by Nico Ladero with 3 goals, Christian Rodon with 3 goals, and Will Bruin with 2 goals for the Seattle Sounders. And like I said, the Sounders should be favorites in this game. You know that they want to bounce back after that tough loss against Montreal. Though I will say that if there's one thing that can get going for TFC is the fact that they get to stay at home, whereas Seattle, they had to travel all the way across the other side of the country on a short rest, and sometime when that, of course, happen, it can definitely give the fitness advantage toward the team that gets to not have to travel or has an extra rest. That doesn't always seems to be the case. I mean, not always the case where you would think a team would be absolutely exhausted heading into a game, and they basically play well and don't look like the exhaustion kind of shown. And the Sounders will definitely wants to bounce back in this game, especially against a team that they just tend to love to play, especially in a big match. But now moving on, we got the Vancouver Whitecaps versus LAFC, which will start at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. The Whitecaps have a 6-3-8 record, and LAFC have an 11-3-3 record. An all-time meeting, LAFC have a 4-3-3 record over the Whitecaps. Top goal scorer for the Whitecaps, you got Lucas Cavallini with 5 goals, followed by Ryan Gall with 2 goals, Ryan Raposo with 2 goals, Tosan Ricketts with 2 goals, and Brian White with 2 goals. For LAFC, Chicho Arango is now tied with Carlos Vela with 6 goals at the top goal scorer for LAFC, and I won't be surprised it will be a matter of time before he passes Vela in terms of that goal scoring stats for LAFC, because he's been red hot right now. Then you got Ryan Hollinshead with 4 goals, Mahana Opoku with 4 goals, and then Jose Cifuentes with 3 goals for LAFC. Now, obviously, I know a lot of people will say that LAFC is heavy favorites in this game, and they should be able to get a win against the Whitecaps. One of the things I want to say is that, LAFC, while they do still won more games against the Whitecaps, it's not by a lot. Like, the Whitecaps have been able to beat LAFC, and that for a while, the Whitecaps has kind of been a nemesis for LAFC, especially at BC Place, where the Whitecaps always tends to have a good record against LAFC, and really in general, the Whitecaps has had a really good record this season at BC Place. I mean, that place is really a stadium that, it's kind of a graveyard for teams that is looking to get free away points or even getting a point on the road. So we'll see whether or not if that's going to be the case again in this one, and whether or not, LAFC, after that great performance that they have against FC Dallas, we'll see whether or not if they can follow up against a team that they don't really have a good history facing against, especially on the road. Next up, we got NYCFC versus Atlanta United. That will kick off the first of what would be, I believe, 8 games that's going to be happening on Sunday. A lot of them is going to be happening in the evening, but this one is going to be happening in the afternoon. This game will start at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 5:08 p.m. local time. Now, I'm not sure if this game is going to be at Yankee Stadium or at Citi Field, because I think the Yankees are actually playing this weekend. Again, I'm not quite sure if that's the case. If it is, then this game, of course, will be at Citi Field, and if the Yankees are not playing, then yeah, NYCFC, of course, will be playing at their actual home stadium. But yeah, NYCFC have an 8-4-4 record, while Atlanta has a 5-4-7 record. All-time meaning, it's been dead even at 4 wins apiece for both of these teams and 3 draw. Top goal scored for NYCFC, you got Tati Castellanos with 8 goals, but it's been a while since Tati Castellanos has scored for NYCFC. I mean, he's kind of going through a bit of a dry spell for NYCFC in these last couple of games. But then you got Abear with 4 goals, Thiago Martins with 4 goals, Thiago Andrade with 4 goals, and Alexander Callens with 3 goals. For Atlanta United, Ronaldo Cisneros still the top goal scored with 4 goals, but you got Luis Araujo also with 4 goals, followed by Joseph Martinez also with 4 goals. Then you got Thiago Amada, who I believe his suspension is over after this game, because, he was giving a 3-game suspension after deciding to put hands on the referee, which is a big no-no in the game of soccer. Then you got Dom Dwyer also with 3 goals to finish the top 5 goals scored for Atlanta United. So yeah, this is a game that obviously I think NYCFC is favorites, but if there's one thing about Atlanta this season is that they can be inconsistent at times. There could be some times that they could be very, very good even when they are on the road. So we'll see whether that's going to be the case, and we'll see whether or not if NYCFC, the tenure under Nick Cushing hasn't really got off to the best start. I mean, in the last game they shipped out 4 goals after this was supposed to be the most solid defense in this past month or two, and that in the previous game they also had problem in terms of goal scoring, but at least they're back home in this one, and let's see whether or not if they can finally get the first win for interim head coach Nick Cushing for NYCFC. But now moving on, in the next match, we got the Columbus Crew versus the Philadelphia Union, and don't look now, but the Crew is back in the playoff race. I mean, for a while, there was a lot of people talk about what is going on with the Columbus Crew. Why are they still like in the near the bottom of the Eastern Conference when this team is back healthy? Well, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't have a true goal scorer. Now that they do with Cucho Hernandez, who, we don't know whether or not if he's going to be playing this game. In fact, all the signings that's been made throughout MLS in this past couple of weeks, I don't think any of them is going to be eligible to play until the next match week that's going to be happening on July 8th because, I think the MLS primary transfer, or not primary, but secondary transfer window doesn't actually open until July 7th. So all these deals are just kind of pre-signings and pre-contract that a lot of these players have signed, but they're not actually going to be moving to their team until when the transfer window opens. But they are going to be playing against the Philadelphia Union, which only lost for the second time in the last game against the Chicago Fire, and definitely have suffered a major letdown in that game after a thrilling victory against NYCFC just a week ago. But their record is now 7-8-2, though they are now dropped down to third place in the Eastern Conference, while the Crew, I think they're only like 1 or 2 points below the red line. Like, this team is definitely heading toward a positive direction after it looked like this team was dooming and gloom, and that maybe this kind of had saved at least Caleb Porter his time of being the Crew head coach, because he's been on a hot seat, and it feels like that seat has been cool a little bit with the recent wins, especially on the road for the Crew. Now this game will this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. This is the first of 2 games that's going to be happening around that time, but this is also during the time where usually this is where the meat of the MLS action begin, where around that kind of period there's going to be a lot of games that is going to happen. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's going to be 7 games that's going to be happening around that same time. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of soccer that I'll be watching, and I'm going to try my best in terms of watching as much soccer as possible. But in terms of the all-time meeting, the Crew does have a 15-4-12 record over the Union. Top goal scorer, you got Lucas Zarian still with 4 goals, followed by Derek Etienne with 3 goals, Eric Hurtado with 3 goals, Darlington Nagbe with 3 goals, and Miguel Berry with 2 goals. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that the Crew also have that guy called Jason Russell Rowe. And even though I know it's just been 1 game, I mean, you can definitely see the hype is around that kid. That kid has really given a huge new breath of fresh air, kind of almost similar to what Miguel Berry did last year. Remember Berry came into Columbus and he started to bang goals left and right. It feels like the Crew are once again getting that kind of player, and that again, it's only been 1 game, but I have a feeling he's going to be a very good player for the Crew from now on to the end of the season. But for the Union, you got Daniel Gastet with 7 goals, followed by Julian Carranza with 4 goals, Alejandro Bedoya with 3 goals, Corey Burke with 3 goals, and Michael Root to round up the top 5 with 3 goals. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting game, and that for the Union, they'll be very fatigued coming into this one, because this is like their third game in the past 6 days, and that while they didn't really have to travel too much for this game to Columbus, I mean, they stay in the East Coast time zone, but when you have that many games in such a short amount of period, it could definitely be a little bit fatiguing. But now moving on, in the next match, we got New England versus FC Cincinnati, as this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time, just like this match between Columbus and the Philadelphia Union. But what's interesting about this match is that these are 2 teams that are sitting in 6th and 7th place and kind of like right above the red line, and both of these teams have also kind of been heading into the right direction. The Revs, they're now 6 and 5, while FC Cincinnati is 7-3 and 7. And in terms of the all-time meeting, the Revs actually leads the all-time meeting 5-0-1. In fact, the Revs have not lost to Cincinnati ever since the first ever meeting between both of these teams, where Cincinnati, of course, pulled off that 2-0 win against New England, and that was back in the early days of FC Cincinnati in their expansion season, of what we thought that maybe this was going to be a decent team, and then they basically fall off the cliff after when they got that 2-0 win against New England all the way back in 2018. Or was it 2017? No, it was 2018. Top goal scored for the Revs, or actually no, I'm sorry, not 2018. It was 2019. That of course has happened. But top goal scored for the Revs, unsurprisingly, right now is Carlos Hill with 4 goals. I mean, I know Adam Buxa was the top goal scorer, but obviously I don't put players that is no longer with the team in the top goal scorer. But then you got Gustavo Bo with 3 goals, Emmanuel Boateng with 2 goals, Brendan Bai with 2 goals, and Sebastian Lletget with 2 goals. For Cincinnati, you got Brendan Vasquez still at the top goal scorer with 8 goals, followed by Lucho Acosta with 6 goals. But then you also got the hat-trick hero, Brenner, getting 4 goals, and could have easily been up to 6 right now if it wasn't for those 2 goals that was disallowed in that game against NYCFC. But then you got Barrial with 2 goals and Moreno with 2 goals for FC Cincinnati. And I have a feeling this could be a game where there could be a lot of goals that could score. I mean, at least in the Cincinnati sense where, they have a very dynamic attack, and especially with guys like Vasquez, Acosta, and Brenner, that front three has really heat up and can really do some good thing for this team. But the Revs, they also have some good players too. I mean, they have the magician in Carlos Hill and Gustavo Bo. At times, he could definitely be the guy that can lead the line. But also, not to mention the fact that New England is rumored to find an Adam Buksa replacement, and they potentially is going to sign him during the summer transfer window. This team looks like it should be fine. I mean, they already found a Matt Turner replacement in Georgi Petrovic, who I thought he has really look impressive and has done well for the Revs. And that, yeah, I think even though I know Revs fan will definitely miss Matt Turner, with the performance that Petrovic has been put for the Revs, it's gonna ease the pain for Revs fans to have to deal with losing what is probably the best goalkeeper, and a goalkeeper that is fighting for the top job to be the U.S. men's national team goalkeeper heading into the World Cup in November. But now moving on, in the last match on this board, we got Sporting KC versus the New York Red Bulls, as this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. Sporting KC have a 4-4-10 record, while the Red Bulls have an 8-8-5 record. All-time meeting, Sporting KC just leads the all-time meeting at 23-14-22 over the Red Bulls. Remember, both of these teams came into the league and were part of kind of that original 10 teams that came into the league back in '96. Top goal scorer for Sporting KC, well, you got Johnny Russell with 5 goals and Daniel Shaarawy with 4 goals. And even though, those are the 2 players that I mentioned that need to step up in terms of the goal scorer department, if Sporting KC is going to be good, they're not doing it enough. Like both of these teams combined with just 9 goals is not enough for them to be a contender, and it's unsurprised that they are still near the bottom of the Western Conference. But then you got Remy Walter with 2 goals, Roger Espinoza and Felipe Hernandez, and a bunch of Sporting KC players with 1 goal. For the Red Bulls, you got Lewis Morgan, who was able to increase his goal tally to 8 goals, followed by Luquinhas with 5 goals. Then you got Patrick Klimala with 4 goals, Tom Barlow with 2 goals, and Omar Fernandez with 2 goals. And, the Red Bulls, it's been a while since they have been able to get a road win. In fact, they haven't got a road win ever since they started the season with 5 straight wins on the road. And that's when I talk about how the Red Bulls were probably one of the most not normal team in MLS, and one of the weirdest team too, where they're able to win on the road, but when it comes to home form, it's basically not good. But now it seems like it's reverse, where they have become good, but they also have struggled on the road. But this is a big opportunity to get some road points and even get a road win, because for Sporting KC, I know they got that big victory against Nashville a couple weeks ago, but yeah, then they were followed by a loss and a huge smack down to reality. And again, this is also a team that is focused more on the U.S. Open Cup than it is in MLS. So yeah, for the Red Bulls, you would think that they should be able to get reserved, especially I know Children's Mercy Park is one of the toughest places to get points, especially it is famed as the blue hell of MLS, but that doesn't seem like it's the case with the way that teams have been able to walk away from Kansas City with all 3 points most of the time. And that it's also not surprised that Sporting KC has also struggled at home, in addition of their struggle on the road this season too. But that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last 4 games that's going to be happening in terms of the busy Sunday night action. So in the next game, we got Minnesota versus RSL that will also start at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. The Loons have a 6-3-8 record, while RSL have an 8-5-4 record. In terms of the all-time meeting, the Loons does lead this meeting, though there's been a lot of draws in this one, 5 draws apiece, with the Loons having a 4-2 advantage over RSL in terms of the all-time meeting. The top goal scorer for Minnesota, you got Robin Lod with 6 goals, followed by Emmanuel Reynoso, now up to second after the 2-goal performance he had against the Galaxy with 5 goals. Then you got Luis Almeria with 3 goals, and then follow that, you got a bunch of guys that have 1 goal. One of them is Kervin Arriaga and Abu Denladi. Now, there is some good news about Kervin Arriaga that I mentioned how I was very concerned that he might have just suffered a season-ending injury because of that certain A injury that he of course has. But it looks like from the rumor of the fact that he only rode his leg, and that it seems like he's only going to be out for a certain period, and it seems like it is now confirmed the fact that he's only going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks, which it is still a big loss for this team, and especially, my biggest question for this Minnesota team heading into this game is who's going to play midfield in that team, because besides Will Trapp, they do not have any midfield. I mean, I guess maybe Ja'Cory Hayes has to come in there because, Rosales is not going to be available in this game after he got a second yellow and get a red card to be suspended in this one. Now, for RSL, they don't really have a top goal scorer, and this is, again, a team that is starting to embrace their identity of the team is being the star, because when you look at the top goal scorer, you got guys like Cordova, Glad, and Wood, all with 3 goals, and Bobby Wood most likely is going to suck at 3 goals for a while because he's going to be out for a couple of weeks and maybe in a couple of months. But you got Justamiro with 2 goals and Tate Smith with 2 goals for RSL, and also a bunch of RSL players that are sitting on 2 goals and 1 goal so far this season. But yeah, for Minnesota, I know this is the third game in 7 days for them, and that I know, it's going to be pretty exhausting coming into this game against RSL, where, I feel like, I know Minnesota doesn't really have a true rivalry. Some might argue that RSL could be one, because when these two play against each other, it can be very, very feisty, and especially from what I heard that maybe David Ochoa could be back in goal in this one, which I don't think that's going to be the case, because I think Zach McMath has been so good that I feel like he deserved to have the job. But if David Ochoa is going to be in goal for this game, oh boy, there's going to be some fireworks to be seen in this one, because the whole what situation that happened last year with Ochoa decided to boots one into the stands, and that triggered a lot of Minnesota fans. I mean, it didn't really trigger me that much, but definitely triggered a lot of them in terms of talk about how Ochoa is not respecting the game. But overall, they're these two teams, they don't like each other, and that I expect it should be a very feisty kind of game. But I'm hoping Minnesota can walk away with all 3 points, especially let's just hope that win against the Galaxy maybe is a beginning of them start to get themselves back into where they're supposed to belong, because this team, as I mentioned many times, they're one of the most underachieving teams this season, and the only way for them to get themselves back to where they belong is start getting a good winning streak going. But now, moving on, in the next match, we got the Houston Dynamo versus Charlotte FC. So both of these teams, of course, coming off losses, and both of these teams kind of come off with frustrating losses, because the Dynamo, they played well in the last game against the Portland Timbers, but just couldn't finish, and they dropped to 6-3-8. While Charlotte, they suffer a rare loss at home in the last game, and their record is now at 6-2-10. As this game will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. And of course, since Charlotte is playing against a Western Conference team, that this, of course, is the first ever meeting, and that is the case for this one. For the Dynamo, in terms of the top goal scorer, you got Darwin Quintero with 7 goals, followed by Seba Ferreira with 6 goals. Then you got Alfredson with 2 goals, Tyler Pasher with 2 goals, and Fafa Pico with 2 goals for the Dynamo. For Charlotte FC, it's still Karol Świderski with 4 goals, but I mentioned many times before, he's been one of those number 9 that has gone through a long drought right now, and are kind of belonging in the club that no striker wants to belong, which is the curse club in terms of strikers that just cannot break out of their goal scoring curse that they're enduring. But then you got Ben Bender with 3 goals, Andre Shinshiki with 3 goals, Alcivar with 1 goal, and Corujo with 1 goal for Charlotte FC. And Charlotte still looking to try to get their first win of their first win on the road in franchise history. And this is definitely not a place that's going to be easy to do so. I mean, the Dynamo this season, while they have been kind of mediocre, I think Dynamo fans will be happy with the way that they have actually played not only much better at home, but also on the road too, where they on the road, a lot of time when you face the Dynamo, it's automatic free points, and they just give 3 points to you because they suck on the road. But this season, even though their road record is not great, I feel like they've been more competitive this season on the road, and the last game against the Timbers was a big example of that. But at home this season, they've been very, very good. And to face against a team that is not very good on the road, you probably know what the result is going to be. But you never know. Maybe we will see some history, and MLS does continue to pride itself on the parity, and also anybody can beat anyone at any given time. So maybe Charlotte can make some history in this game and finally getting their first road win in franchise history. But now moving on in the next match, we got Nashville SC versus the Portland Timbers, and I think it's safe to say that maybe this is the desperation derby of the week because, you know, both of these teams, you know, for Nashville, I know they're not really in the worst record in the Western Conference. In fact, they're still above the red line right now with 7-5-5 record, and the Timbers, you know, start to get themselves back into playoff contention and started to slowly dig themselves out of a very deep hole that they put themselves in the first half of the season with a 5-7-6 record. But you just kind of sense that, you know, both of these teams are desperate to get a win because, you know, for Nashville, what a disastrous week that they had, especially on Wednesday with the way that they, of course, suffer a loss against Orlando City in a game where they were just minutes away of going to the semifinal, and then of course they gave up a late goal and ends up losing in penalty. Well, for the Portland Timbers, you know, they're desperate to get wins because they need to continue this momentum. I mean, in these last two games, they finally got a bit of a streak going, and if they can win this one, and also knowing the Cascadia derby is looming in the distance. In fact, that game is going to be next week, and that's been the game that I think Timbers fans not only been waiting to see to happen, but it's also a game that I've mentioned many times and kind of jokingly saying that that's the game that Timbers fans want to happen, and so that they can get a win against Seattle and go on their second half resurgence, like what we've seen with teams that are able to win the Cascadia derby. But yeah, we'll see whether they can win this one, and whether Nashville can also win this one, and especially they need to improve their home form this season. Like, their home form has been absolutely horrendous, and it doesn't help the fact that they're also started having the same problem that they had last season, which is, you know, they dropped way too many points at home. Now, this game will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, like the last game, but will start at 7:38 p.m. local time. There's actually one prior meeting between both of these teams, and remember, both of these teams met all the way back in 2020, and this was the second game for Nashville SC in their existence, and the Timbers were able to win 1-0, and that was, I believe, also the final game before everything basically shut down in the world, pretty much gone badly because of the you-know-what pandemic happened. But the top goal scored for Nashville, you got Hani Mukhtar with 8 goals, and it seems like he's started to heat up and be like the Hani Mukhtar of last season after a bit of a slow start to the season. But then you got CJ Sapong with 5 goals, Alex Mule with 2 goals, Dave Romney with 2 goals, and a bunch of players with 1 goal. One of them is Anaboko Joy. For the Portland Timbers, speaking of players that started to get back on track, Yaroslav Nishgoda getting back on track now with 5 goals, followed by Bill Tuiluma with 5 goals, though Tuiluma is not going to be available in this game after he got a red card in the last one. They got Jimmy Chara with 4 goals, Sebastian Blanco with 3 goals, and Santiago Moreno, who of course scored those 2 goals to get the Timbers. The 2-1 win against the Dynamo is now up to 5th place in terms of the top goal scored. So yeah, let's see who is going to win this desperation derby in a game where both of these teams desperately need all 3 points. Finally, moving on into the last game on this board, and the last game in terms of the Sunday action is the San Jose Earthquakes versus the Chicago Fire, and this came very close of being a wooden spoon derby. Like, if the Fire didn't get that win against the Union, I would say that this is the wooden spoon derby, and I've said many times before where I know the wooden spoon derby might not be interesting to see, but I've seen before where even some of the worst match in MLS and some of the matches between two very bad teams turns out to be an absolute amazing game. And especially this one, where this one has some good history too, especially, you know, this will always be a matchup that I will remember, the matchup that Chris Wondolowski not only were able to break the all-time goal scored in MLS history, passing Landon Donovan, but also able to score 4 goals in that game against the Chicago Fire. But, you know, the Fire are looking to try and avoid that, as, you know, despite the win that they had against the Union, it's still a 4-5-8 record, and I don't think they have won a game on the road so far this season, right? No, they did win 1 game on the road against DC, but this was all the way back in the early part of the season. Well, the Quakes, speaking of road wins, they have not got a win so far this season on the road. But the good news is they're back home for the first time, and it feels like an eternity since the Quakes have last played at PayPal Park. Like, I think the last time they played was all the way back in the middle of May, and again, it's not a surprise that they haven't had a home game, especially with the last game that they play was being postponed. So this team is going to be very well rested coming into this game against the Fire with a 3-6-7 record. This game will start at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, the Fire does have a slight advantage, 16, 11, and 13 over the Quakes. But in terms of the top goal scorer, you got Jeremy Abobasi with 9 goals, followed by Christian Espinoza with 4 goals, Jermaine Montero with 3 goals, Jackson Yule with 3 goals, and Francisco Calvo, who I believe he's still with the Quakes right now. Despite there's been heavy rumors that he might have moved to Turkey, he have 2 goals so far for the Quakes. For the Fire, you got Kasper Shabilko with 3 goals, Jordan Shaqiri with 3 goals, Jonathan Bornstein with 1 goal, Duran with 1 goal, and Herbert with 1 goal, and a bunch of player that has 1 goal for the Fire. And also, judging by the low number, it's not a big surprise. I've mentioned many times this team struggle to score a goal and also have really struggled this season on the road too. So you would think that this should be an easy 3 points for the Quakes, right? I mean, so far this season they have done very well at home, and that I think they still have yet to lose a game at home ever since opening day against the New York Red Bulls. So hopefully they should get 3 points and get themselves back on track, because it sucks the fact that this team is now back in the bottom of the Western Conference. Even though doing this stretch under Alex Cavello, I don't think they play badly, and that they have kind of shown some improvements, mostly on the attacking. I mean, the defense is still a mess, but let's just hope that they can get a win in this one, especially against a team that is also not doing well right now in the Eastern Conference. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my preview of these 10 games that's going to be happening today and also tomorrow. Like I said, I'll do the preview of the July 4th game either today or maybe tomorrow. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games, and also let me know in the comments your prediction for those 10 games that's going to be happening today and also tomorrow. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.